Okay, now here we're going to talk about panels. You'll notice that I've taken away all the panels here because I just kind of thought it would be a little bit easier for you to understand if I started from scratch and showed you just how simple and easy it is to add panels in different ways depending on what you like. Now, you won't have the difficulty, I suppose you would call it. You won't have that when you start if you use the photography workspace, because there are already panels there and you saw those in previous videos. But again, I just thought it would be nice to show you how you can add and take away panels and move them around in different ways. Now, as I indicated in a previous video, panels are like subprograms. At least that's the way I think of them, where you initiate a function and then able to define parameters for it. For example, you can use a layers panel where you define what the layers are and how they're defined. In this video, we'll just talk about how to add panels, different ways you can display panels, and then how to remove panels, as I just mentioned a minute ago. And there are 4 different ways really to think about it. There's open, docked, and ready to use panels, which you saw in previous videos. There's embedded panels as a tab that are available for use, and we'll go through that. You probably saw those as well. Available as a thumbnail so that they take up less real estate. You can click on them and open them when you're ready to use them. And then open and floating panels that are ready to use. So basically, when you need something, you open it, use it, and then close it. So that's kind of the different ways to think about panels. So we're going to start by having a panel available and having it docked and ready to use. And probably the best example of this is the layers panel. I mean, you use layers. I mean, it's a must. You have to have a layer in Photoshop. So having a panel open for it to see the layers that you have and how to work with those layers is pretty much a must. So we're going to start by adding a layers panel. And the way you add panels is to come up here to Window, and click, here are your panels right here, in between the extensions and the application frame. All of these are different kinds of panels. So we're going to come in here and notice none of them are checked. As soon as I click on it, the layers panel opens. If you go back and look, now there's a check beside it, basically meaning that anything that has a check beside it is a panel that is open for use. So if we wanted to take this and make it available, we could just leave it right here, but I think it's kind of nice to take it and push it all the way over here until you see the blue line, kind of like we did with the toolbar. Let go, and now it's docked against the right hand side. So this panel is, whenever you open, it's always going to be open Photoshop and come to your workspace. If you've saved this panel over here like this, it's always going to be sitting here ready to use. So that's a simple way. That's all there is to creating that. Now let's say we wanted to add a history panel on top of that. I always use the history panel as well as the layers panel. So I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to open the history panel. It's going to open here. I'm going to take this and drag it over here on top of the layers panel. Notice the blue bar across the top of the layers panel. It has to be there to dock it to the top. So I'll let go. And now I have the history panel on top with the layers panel down here. If I wanted more real estate for the history panel, I just have to go to this little separator here, grab it, and pull it down to give me more real estate for the history panel. So it's that simple and that easy. Now you have the history panel and the layers panel open and ready for use. So the second way, and that's really literally all there is to it, the second way that I wanted to show you is adding tabs inside these, and they are just as simple. In the layers panel, typically when you open up Photoshop and you go to any one of the seated workspaces, the layers panel also has paths and channels in there. I don't really use paths, but I'm going to put the channels in there. So I'm going to open Windows again. Notice the history and the layers panel are checked. I'm going to click on channels, and we're going to take channels, and I'm going to take it in here and I'm going to put it in here until See, notice how the box, the blue line is around the entire layers panel as a box, and if I let go, then it becomes channels, becomes a tab in here. Now I want to show you something. If I open the window, you'll notice that channels is checked but layers is not. That's because channel is the visible panel, but layers is not a visible panel. If I come back over here and click on layers to make it visible, then you see that layers now becomes checked and channels is not checked. But this is a great way to have panels available to you at all times without taking up really any real estate at all. So we're going to come up here and I'm going to add another one to the history panel. And we're going to come in here and add, let's see, let's add properties. We're going to open properties. And you notice here that it has this little thumbnail. That's because it was defined as a thumbnail before. If I just click here and drag it, that goes away. So what I'm going to do is take the properties panel and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to add it to history, just like I did down here at channels. So you can see how I'm building this. And if I wanted something in between here, very simple. Let's say I want to put the libraries in there. So let's go down to library, which is right here. Open that. And now I'm going to take libraries. Oops. Sorry about that. I'll take that and in here until you see the blue bar right in between the two. Let go. And now I have libraries in here. I have layers and channels down here and history up here. So I could take this, move it up, take layers, move it up, and now I've got 3 levels or 3 different displayed panels. Now I typically wouldn't need libraries displayed like that, so what I'm going to do is drag it out here, and then I have more real estate for layers. I typically use a lot of layers, so I want more layers and more history. That's typically what I use the most of or need the most visibility to. So libraries is something that I do use every now and then, and I like to have it available, but I don't need it taking up much real estate. So I could put it as another tab up here, which I think is what I'm going to do. So take it up here one more time till the box goes around the entire area. Let go, and now I have libraries in here, and I can see much more of libraries than I could if it were in between layers and history, and I would definitely have more ability to see more layers and more history as well. So now I have that there. So now we've talked about layers that are open and ready to use, such as the history panel and the layers panel. We talked about tabbed panels so that you can get to them easily enough by just clicking on the tabs. Let's talk about creating icons or thumbnails in here. So let's say I want to bring in character. I open that up, and I have, because I work with text quite a bit, so I usually need this at least available. So now you can see that I have it here, and you've got this little less than, double less than here. And if you click on that, it creates a thumbnail out of it. And with this, it's much like the toolbar. I'm going to see if I can use Apple's zoom here. Let's see. There we go. So you can see in here this little grid across there. If you grab that little grid, whoops, there we go. Grab that little grid and move it over here all the way until you see that blue bar. Now it becomes docked in here. So now I have character available anytime I need it, and it's taking up less real estate. Maybe I have a lot of tabs up here already, and I want to make sure that I have visibility to others here. So what I can do is create a couple more. Let's say I have paragraph as well. I'm going to do an icon with that, or a thumbnail. I'm going to move it over here and put it right underneath there like that. So you saw the little blue line there. Let me do that again. Drag it over here, and you don't want to dock it there because it'll create another column. You want to bring it over here and up here until that line, that blue line, is right there, and let go. So now I have, whoops, sorry about that. now I have these thumbnails on the side here, so I can always, anytime I'm working with text, just come up here and click on that, not have to worry. I mean, it's not much more trouble, but you could go over here and click on this. But let's say that I want those to be embedded with one another. All I have to do is take this grid and move it up here until I see that blue bar around the character, let go, and now these two are actually linked together. So if I click either one of these, now there's a tab inside there for paragraph. So that's kind of the distinction there. If I took, for example, actions, again, we're going to take this and move it. We're going to create a icon or a thumbnail. I'm going to bring it over here one more time up here like this and let go. And one more time we're going to try the zoom in here. And I wanted to show you that there is a separator bar between the character and the paragraph and the action. So these two, there's no separator bar because they are linked together by tabs. This one is separate because it is not part of that group. So I just wanted you to kind of see that's the way that works. So here are three of the four things I wanted to show you. Basically, you have ones that are open and available for use. You have panels that are included as tabs like this that are always available just by clicking on the tabs, taking up less real estate. Then you have the thumbnails out here that you can select. So the last one that I wanted to talk about was just a standalone. Let's say you wanted the navigator. The navigator is out here by itself, and you zoom in, say like this, move the navigator around to get what you want. Maybe you want to go in here close to 100% just so you can see how well the extraction was, and move around and look around, and then when you're done you just close it, and that's all that. So if it's one that you rarely use, then you can just use it as a one-off just by clicking on window and going to it, opening it up, using it. When you're done, you click and close it, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. So you only want to take up real estate for ones over here that you use constantly. Now, that's really all I wanted to show you, but there's one more rule of thought thought that I wanted to just mention. You could make all of these thumbnails. So I could take this group here and I could make it a thumbnail like that. You could have double thumbnails, or I could take this and move it over here and take this and move it over here, and now you just have thumbnails. You don't have any real estate to deal with. And when you want to see your layers, you just come in here and click on layers. You could have it out here to work with, and then if you really needed history to be able to see easy as well, see when you click on this, layers is going to go away. So if you wanted to see the two together, then you would have to have them embedded. You still couldn't see them together, so you'd have to have a separate thumbnail here that you could see, or a tab, I mean, in here where you could have layers and history together. You could just click back and forth and see them. But this is a pretty interesting format here, because one of the things that I had heard from some of the professional photographers was that they like having everything where they could have more real estate. So if you really get down to it, you could probably take this, the toolbar, move it over here as well, and now you've got your toolbar and your panels all together, and you could just have them in a way so that they take up very little real estate. So it's just a thought. I don't know that I could warm up to that. I like to have that layers panel open all the time. So just a thought. But anyway, that is pretty much, pretty much everything I wanted to tell you. the configuration of these things is pretty much endless, but that's pretty much it.